Hi, I'm Rigger. This is You Alright, and today I'm just covering something kind of fun. Before we start the YouTube things, be sure to like it if you like it, share it if you think others would like it. Let me know what you think in the comments and subscribe for more. Yeah, we're getting that out of the way early, but please do let me know. I love to hear about it, and this really does help. Anyway, let's get to it. So, this is a little theory / cool setup kind of thing I noticed. I really didn't know what to call this, so I guess we're going to label it a discussion, I guess? We'll say discussion for lack of a better term. If you have something else I should call it, let me know. Prediction? I don't know. I'm going to mention it now because there's a good chance we'll move on in the show and it won't happen. We're at the perfect point for me to talk about this. If it does happen, I basically want to say that, yeah, I called it. And at the least, I want to point out this really fun possibility and maybe discuss some ideas on it. Oh, by the way, since we're here, spoilers for Volume 8, Chapter 4, by the way. That's your warning. So, looking at the landscape right now, we have several stories running, right? We've got Oz and Salem, plus we've got the Yang crew, we've got the RWBY crew, we've got the Crow subplot, we're looking into Ironwood as well. Plus now we have stuff with Amity, with Penny heading there, and Cinder said she's heading there. Lots of moving pieces. It's slowly approaching the halfway point of the volume. The next 3 episodes will get us there. And if you know your season layout for TV, you know a big midpoint of the volume is a usual occurrence. You get fights, you get plot twists, things kick into gear, you get your big changes and drama to keep people hooked in to start your setup for the big finale for the end of the season where big stuff happens. RWBY does this too, just even though it's not on like TV. Penny getting framed in season 7 was episode 6 of 13. Crow getting poisoned was in 7 of 12. Yang getting framed and revealing the maiden was in 6 of 12. You get my point. And about the middle point, things usually happen, usually accompanying some bigger action scenes to keep people invested, like that Crow fight being split over 2 episodes in Volume 4. Mid-season finales are a thing, even in RWBY. So, looking at the current season, if you want your approaching mid-season setups, we have several. Cinder and Penny fight at Amity sounds pretty good, and kinda likely now. Plus there's the Hack subplot with Watts. Maybe he'll remote in, which just, I've made my feelings known about that. Or the Aesops will take the Hack sword and check in at Amity. Maybe we'll have a multi-way fight for the maiden. Will the Aesops and Watts get her, or will Cinder get her? Cinder versus the Aesops also sounds cool too, and there's like that 3-way scenario. Also, Pietro and Maria are here for collateral damage as well as wildcards and events. Even if not, Cinder is heading there, so at least her and Penny, that might probably happen. Also, if Watts hacks Penny, then tells Cinder to back down and the Ops go along with it because it's what they want, that might be a tipping point for someone like Marrow to defect, right? Realizing how worrying it is that they're going along with what the bad guys want, and apparently that's what Salem wants. Pietro and Maria could also be captured, or maybe they'll team with Crow and Robin in prison after they get captured and act to help for the little breakout with all the tech help and stuff. There's lots of options here. Jumping across, there's seemingly a boss fight coming for Yang, Ren, and Jean, which I think will be the Grim winner, like I've said that before. It makes sense to slot that into the script here. Insert Grim winner here, fight, make it a boss fight mid-season. That makes a whole lot of sense. So there's likely a big fight there, and maybe injuries. There's gonna be fallout from that, most likely. My personal predictions, Ren gets hurt, and then that puts Ren and Nora side by side in recovery so they can have a chat because both of them are stuck in beds recovering. It's a good setup to make them talk to each other with the scenario, and it works as a recovery after the mid-season impacts of the changing of the playing field in the second half of the volume. Everything I've mentioned so far seems pretty good, but they also seem pretty obvious. You know, I'm not being masterful in my observation here. But that's okay. You know, Penny flies to Amity, Cinder says she's going to Amity. Probably gonna meet up. Ren, Yang, and Nora are stuck until they fix the bike, and something's coming for them. Probably gonna be a fight. Watts and Ironwood want Penny, so that's Amity too, and the Aesops work with them. And for Crow and Robin, they're kinda stuck. It'll take an attack on the base, a traitor like Marrow, some outside help, or super convenient situations to start a breakout for them. So probably not yet, probably after the mid-season is my, loose guess. But then we have RWBY's team, and I think RWBY's team have a seriously cool setup for an action sequence, the type of which we've never seen before in RWBY. What do I mean? Well, I was a little confused by their decision to fly to Schnee Manor, both in the plot and out of it. In the plot, they had to fly up into Atlas, and I don't know really how they managed that. Well, I guess we'll skim over it, but the hard-light shields are supposed to be up to defend, and they flew from the base underneath, and look, there's a bunch of issues there, but I'm actually willing to gloss over it. Also, in narrative, I guess it's a building they somewhat know, and Weiss definitely knows, so yeah, and I guess the military probably wouldn't immediately think they went there, so they probably wouldn't look. But also, in a meta sense, I'm like, why are we here? What does this achieve? I want to see Whitley get some development, love to see some more story stuff with Willow, but like, why are we here? Why didn't we just go back to the slums and chuck Nora in a cot somewhere or something? Like, what does we gain for the story for this? The general convention is you don't go to a place unless you're going to do something with it, you know, just natural storytelling. But then I realized we actually have an amazing setup. As we know, night is setting in for everyone. The sunset has been all over these scenes, especially the Yang crew sections, and everything is running alongside each other, so this applies for everybody. I actually commented on the fact that Weiss is being unnecessarily crappy to Whitley, and it could come back to bite them. I said he might sell them out during my watch-through thoughts, but afterwards it actually all came together for me. This could actually be awesome. There's actually two ways this can happen. Did anyone think it was weird that they weren't chased when they broke out of the hangar? Like, I know there weren't other ships right there, but there is an air fleet, right? And the base was on lockdown, alarms are going off, etc. Well, actually, to go along with the season, there could be another Star Wars reference here. It'd make sense if those ships were tagged, and it's weird, actually, in fact, that they're not, that they've been using Atlas ships this whole time without them being fully equipped with trackers and stuff. So that's very A New Hope, you know, is a tracking beacon on the Millennium Falcon, whatever it was. Basically let them escape to follow them because you have a tracker. But if not the tracking, then yeah, Whitley is resentful of the way he's been treated and the events that have passed, and being the little shit that he is, he just goes to a phone and calls it into the military like, hey, I've got fugitives here and come get them. You know, they broke into my house, they threatened me, my sister's gone crazy, etc, etc. That definitely fits him, and you might call him a piece of whatever for that, but you know, he was treated really badly. He was being relatively nice to them, by the way. But either way, what I'm thinking this culminates in is an awesome raid on the Schnee Manor at night. Like I said, I don't really know what to call this video, I just wanted to talk about this idea. The only unfortunate thing is we don't really know the layout of the house too well. We know these long hallways, we know Jacques' office, we know the foyer, we know the dining room, we kind of know Weiss's room, we know this big sculpture and this sort of piano area we passed by, and that's really all we've ever seen. It'd have been really nice if we knew some more geography and how some of these things connected to each other, sort of the distances and the layout of the house sort of thing, or at least the main house. But my overall point is I'm really hoping we basically get a SWAT raid on this manor at night. There's an amazing setup here. When I realized it really got my like movie lover blood pumping, thinking about what we can take inspiration from. Going down the list, there's Assault on Precinct 13. By the way, I almost legitimately titled this video Assault on Schnee 13, but I didn't know how many would get the reference. And I'm actually only familiar with the remake myself. Not to mention there's The Raid Redemption, which is awesome. Check it out if you haven't. Subtitles only, the dub is awful, and it's not distracting because there is minimal dialogue anyway. But then I went to more manor-like buildings. The attack on Lara Croft in the first Tomb Raider movie sprang to mind as the SWAT busts in through the huge windows and the skylights on lines, and she fights them doing her, like, acrobatics routine. That's kind of cool. Also, there's the Continental sequence from John Wick 3, where they're going through the hotel and popping up from behind desks and squads. That's pretty sweet. Also, since we're dealing with powers, like we're talking RWBY and semblance and stuff, there's also of course, the raid on Xavier's school in X2. And then, of course, there's also tons of stealth games too, like Splinter Cell, etc. There's lots of inspirations to pull from, and then we set it in RWBY. I need to go over the pieces we have here, because it's pretty great. I can't exactly plot it all out for you, but I want to go over what I've got. First of all, the best part that people might have forgotten about, the cameras. Easy to forget about, but Willow specifically said she had cameras in every room of this house. That's amazing. We have Nora down and out, so that's someone we need to look after. We have 2 wildcards in the house with Willow and Whitley. We have May and her invisibility bubble, which is incredible for this. We have RWBY with her semblance and its upgrades now, and their usage of that could be really fun to navigate around the house. And we have the stealth member of Team RWBY in Blake with her night vision, her shadows, and her ninja stylings. If you're ever going to do this, then now is the best setup possible for an amazing scene. Like I said, I can't plot the whole thing out, I don't have all the visuals for you, but bear with me and just see what you think of these ideas. I'll go through some dot points that came to mind. So, it's a deep blue night. The Schnee residence is dark and the team is hiding with Nora resting in a room, maybe taking turns for a lookout for a callback to Volume 2. Suddenly, the Schnee Manor security signals movement on the grounds. Blake, who is on watch, takes a closer look and sees a formation of Atlas soldiers moving piece by piece in black tactical gear approaching the house. She quietly wakes everyone up and motions to what's happening, and they move out. There's some long, tense pauses. RWBY semblances across the staircase on the top level and hides behind the railings up top. Her pedal is the only sound in the night until it's quiet again. After a few beats of silence, bang! Move, move, move! Glass shatters, the door busts in, windows bust in, people drop through skylights, smoke bombs go off as the task force starts sweeping the building. One team of soldiers is moving down some halls. The leader gives a command to 3 soldiers behind him to clear rooms, but only gets 2 responses. Looking around, one is gone. They're all surprised. Cut to inside May's bubble as she's choked one out in a sleeper hold and lays them down gently on the floor in a room just off to the side she's dragged them off to. Only knocked out, of course. She checks her scroll for the cameras around and the place and waits until it's clear to move. The body will not become visible until May moves away, so then they find it somewhere they've already checked with no explanation. Bam! Someone smashes through the skylight right on the landing where RWBY is hiding behind some railings. He spots her and turns to fire, but RWBY dives at him, spinning into her semblance. He gets caught up with it, taken along with her as she flies back up out the skylight where he came from and onto the roof. And while he's disorientated recovering, she trips him up behind the ankles with her scythe, clocks him in the head against the roof, and he's out cold, before she quietly skulks away along the rooftops. A squad of soldiers move up the big staircase in the main foyer. Suddenly, Weiss appears at the top, firing a blast of ice down the steps, which freeze over instantly and the squad tumble back down in a heap. They recover and fire up at her as she runs across the landing, bullets bouncing off the railings and the suit of armor as she passes behind it. As they go to follow her, the night summon smashes through that armor as it's summoned up behind it and starts engaging the team with a big fight in the foyer as it knocks them around with its huge sword. A squad bust into Jacques' office and Blake is in the room with her back to the door. They rush up to her screaming orders to get down and put her hands up. When she doesn't comply, one of them rushes up and shoots her in the back, and the shadow clone vanishes as she drops from the ceiling above, landing in the center of the squad, and Matrix Trinity kicks their asses in hand-to-hand in a circle. In a small sitting room by a fire, Willow is seemingly passed out in an ornate lounge with an empty bottle and a half on a table. A squad of about 5 burst in the room, surrounding her with their guns up as she sleeps and is presumably captured. A team of 3 pile up on the door to the room where Nora was left resting and burst through that door too. After hiding from the gunfire below and keeping control of her summon, Weiss is caught off guard by a team on the upper walkway that come up behind her. One of them takes aim at her as she's totally off guard, but RWBY smashes through the skylight above him, tackling him to the ground and rolling to defend Weiss. The rest are only stunned for a moment before they all raise up their guns and take aim at both of them. Suddenly the 3 vanish and the soldiers fire into thin air, bullets hitting where they should have been. Cut to May having tackled them both out of the way whilst under her bubble. From the ground, Weiss summons a wind glyph on the wall and blows the soldiers over the railing, sending them crashing to the floor below. Blake now rejoins the crew as RWBY, May, and Weiss leap over the railings down to the floor below and engage the 2 piles of soldiers who've been fighting the night, which they've just since recently destroyed, with some of them being knocked down, who are then also joined by that contingent they just blew off the balcony, and the team starts making quick work of them all in hand-to-hand combat. Cut to Whitley being dragged along by 3 guys on the upper walkway. He's kicking and yelling to unhand him. He's saying, "I called you. What are you doing? Let me go." He's squirming uselessly in their arms, kicking his feet. "Unhand my son." They turn. There's Willow. Absolutely not captured. I said, "Unhand my son." They turn to point guns at her, but a glyph appears on the floor between them and a big Terex summons out of it. The soldiers do shoot, but it spreads its wings like a shield, all the bullets hitting it harmlessly, before it then launches at the soldiers. They instinctively brace for impact, but it actually grabs Whitley away from them, jumping off the railing and flying across the landings through the door to the dining room below to get him to safety. Something clinks at the soldiers' feet. They look down and it's an open little vial of black powder. They look back to Willow, who flicks her fingers dismissively and a glyph opens up under them, suddenly turning black, combining with the gravity dust as they slam up into the ceiling before free-falling back to the floor, completely knocked out. She just gives them a stern, curt glance, unfazed. Back down below the action in the foyer, Blake cold clocks a guy, after hitting him in the gut so he doubles over and then delivering a big knee strike under his chin. The group looks around, checking if there's anyone left before they hear a commotion upstairs. RWBY looks around panicked. Nora! They turn to run after her, but right as they do, the door on the upper floor across the landing from Willow suddenly bursts open as a body comes flying through it, completely clearing the rails and landing all the way on the floor below. The team all look up in confusion for a moment as Nora walks out of the door, her hammer over her shoulder with a smug look on her face. How dare you burst into a girl's room without knocking first? Don't you know we need our beauty sleep? As if making fun of the scars that still cover her body. Before she goes weak and slumps over, holding the rail, barely holding herself up. The team then do rush up to help her, along with Willow, who rushes across the landing. They're all talking, stunned, as Whitley walks back into the foyer among the bodies. And from that point, I really don't know. I love the idea of everyone being huddled around Nora, and then Blake goes something like, "What do we do now?" And then Willow looks down for a moment in thought before standing up fully to look down at the stunned Whitley and says, "Whitley, pack your things." Cut to them all leaving on Jacques' big Schnee logo ship. Surely this would make Whitley and Willow wanted anyway when these people wake up. It'd be neat to move them down to the slums with everyone else and maybe get some character development between the two. Whitley learning the value of common people and the commoners to him, and learning that his mum really does still love him and care for him after what she did at the house, and they can bond over that and get to his sort of redemption, and that way she can try to make amends as well for not being there perhaps as she feels she should have been. That'd be a positive and sweet note to sort of move them into the background on, to just assume they're getting development off screen with everyone else and we can focus on our team more, but we've still sort of covered those story elements. But yeah, that's kind of my whole idea. We have the setup of the cameras around the house, which is so fun. We have creative uses of all the semblance. Each person gets their moments to shine. We get references to things we like. We get to see Willow being awesome, which is great. Perhaps showing who she once was before she was so broken down, and her love for her son still being there. And there's some development for both of them. It doesn't remove how injured Nora is, even though she gets a moment to shine and isn't captured or taken away. She still definitely needs help. And they're on the move again still. It's a really fun little scene, and we've never had the chance to do something like this before. The setup is perfect there. Also, I will say, I don't want the Aesops here though. Probably keep them on the penny case or whatever. It's a great moment to show off our team against a substantial amount of well-trained people without developing into huntsman 1v1 fights and factoring in other semblances and stuff. I think it works better if it's just them versus a huge amount of mooks and goons. I don't really know what this video is outside of just a cool setup of the show, and I really hope they take advantage of it. It's just a unique spot we've never really been in, with some actual prior setup of things like the cameras to take advantage of. I don't know what else to say, I just thought this would be cool. I guess if you think it's cool too, let me know, or if you have other ideas. I guess what you think of the other mid-season possibilities too, with the other things I mentioned, if you have any ideas on those. We probably have them coming up soon. Like I said, that Penny vs. Cinderthin seems pretty set up, and there's that Yang team fight, and maybe what you think about Robin and Crow escaping prison, how that's gonna work. But yeah, leave me a like if you like the video, tell me about all those things and anything else you'd like to in the comments below. Share it around if you think others would think this is fun, and subscribe if you want to see more, of course. Remember, be nice to your brothers, and always clear the corners, rookie. Until next time, my name is Rigger. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope I did alright.